Hello everyone, it's Brayden here at Airless Quill 9. We have a new video on the monk class that will appear in the 2024 Player's Handbook. I am especially excited about this one because Monk has gotten a lot of changes in the playtest, and we're going to see how many of them translated over to this book here. So let's go ahead and get started. And as soon as we finish the video, we'll also look at the article to pick up anything that they did not mention in this video. So let's get to it.
Tell me all about the new things in the Monk.
There is so much. When we embarked on creating the new Player's Handbook, we knew that the Monk was going to get a lot of attention. Partly because the Monk's satisfaction scores over the last decade have often been, unfortunately, a bit low.
Yeah.
And the Monk, in terms of actual play numbers, has tended to be low as well. That combination told us this class needs some attention.
Yeah.
Now, every class got a lot of loving attention, but we knew the Monk
Did you really give that much attention to the Ranger?
was going to need some deep work done to it. And the deep work that we did in the Monk, similar to deep work we did in the Ranger, really amounts to this class and the Ranger.
The very few changes that they made to Ranger, and then well, you'll see watch the Ranger video.
Largely being new classes. When you look at the features for the Monk, you look down that list, you're going to see a lot of familiar friends, but also you're going to see some new things.
Nice silver
That
dragonborn.
is evident right away at first level when you dig into the main feature of the Monk at that level, martial arts, where you will find out that right away your selection of Monk weapons has been broadened to be all simple melee weapons, as well as martial melee weapons that have the light property. That's going to give you some more flexibility than you had
a little
before.
bit more flexibility, yeah.
And we've also now made it so that
martial melee weapons with the light property. That's the short sword. The short sword, the only one? The only one I can think of at the moment.
You can now make, with this feature, a unarmed strike as a bonus action, regardless of what else you're doing on your turn. We used to have it so that the Monk had to set up
just
their bonus action unarmed strike before they could do it. Now you don't need the setup. You just simply have always the option to make an unarmed strike as a bonus action. Now, there's even more going on here than that suggests, because we have, in the rules glossary, redesigned the unarmed strike itself. And this is a redesign that affects all characters, but will be especially felt by Monk players because of how often Monks make unarmed strikes. So it used to be in 2014 that the unarmed strike was just a way for anybody to deal some damage if they were without a weapon.
Yeah.
Now, Monks and a few other characters were happy to make unarmed strikes because they often were very effective at them. What we've now done is we have made it so that when you make an unarmed strike, you now have three options of what it does. It can deal damage, like it did before, or you can try to initiate a grapple, or you can try to shove your target. Really what we've done is we've taken three different things that used to exist on their own in the game, dealing unarmed damage, grappling, and shoving, and we've combined them all into your unarmed strike.
You've kind of weapon masteried unarmed strikes, basically.
And we did this for everyone so that you had sort of a single place you could go to for the cool options for your character when you are throwing down with your fists, or you're wrestling, or you're just trying to push someone back. But we also wanted to make it so that the monk could really benefit from this, because this means, unlike in 2014, any time the monk is making an unarmed strike, including as a bonus action, that unarmed strike could be dealing damage, or it could be starting a grapple, or it could involve shoving somebody. That means the monk has an amount of tactical versatility that is with their unarmed strikes, which is akin to the tactical versatility that our weapon users have who are using weapon mastery.
Absolutely.
But a whole lot is fun is hiding out in the unarmed strike itself and how it then combines with the monk's various abilities that use the unarmed strike. And that is evident right away in the martial arts feature.
You can just be pushing someone all around the map.
Yes. And also, boom, bonus action, starting a grapple.
Yeah.
Later on, as monks are able to get more and more unarmed strikes on their turn, each of those unarmed strikes could be a different one of these options.
Yeah.
You could be shoving one person, starting a grapple with another, punching them, kicking away the other person with the shove. It is really cinematic and exciting in actual play.
Yeah.
The monk, through this martial arts feature, can now use their dexterity rather than their strength to set the DCs for the new grappling and shove options that are inside the unarmed strike.
That makes it good.
We wanted to make sure that the monk
of use
who
and utility
is most interested in having a high dexterity and secondarily a high wisdom, that they did not need to then sort of also need to have a really good strength. We wanted monks to be able to take that dexterity and have it even support them when they're using their grappling and shoving options within unarmed strike. Monks
are officially the dexterity fighters now. That is their main ability. You're probably not gonna see strength monks anymore, though you can. However, there would be detriments to doing that instead of going fully into dexterity. So they're just supporting the narrative that they've written for the monk being a dex fighter.
Also have their martial arts die. And this is the die that they use for their unarmed strikes. It's also the die that they can use with their monk weapons. And as they go up in level, at various times, the die improves, which then means, of course, the damage of their unarmed strikes is improving, and the damage of their monk weapons is potentially improving, depending on what the weapons damage die was originally. Across the board, the martial arts die has been improved. And so it now starts at a D6 at level 1 and goes all the way up to a D12 at level 17, which means monks have just simply had a buff across the board on their damage output. Because we realize...
I personally would have liked if they had increased the die every 5 levels. So D8 at 5th level, D10 at 10th level, D12 at 15th level. But at least going up to D12 eventually, even if it's at 17th level, that is nice.
Realize digging into the intricacies of the class's math, that it just was not delivering the amount of damage that it should. And so this is a rare case in this player's handbook of a class just simply getting
a flat-out damage buff.
Just a flat-out damage buff.
Yeah.
And we were able to do that because this is also the unusual class that has so much of its damage passing through a single feature, and in this case, it's the martial arts feature. Whereas we have other classes where damage is instead routing through different weapons, it's routing through different spells, whereas with the monk, so much funnels through this level 1 feature. You ready for some more monk excitement?
Yes, I am ready for more monk excitement. I'm concerned that this is going to be a 3-hour video on the monk.
So, At level 2.
It won't be.
We made it a level.
Wow! We got to level 2.
So in the new feature called Monk's Focus, this is a replacement for a feature that used to be called Key, and this has changed in way more than just name. It is, I mean, other than sort of some surface details of you get some points to spend on various things, there are so many functional changes in here that I'm glad just for that reason alone that the feature has a new name to signal to people.
Yeah.
Pay very close attention to this because in the new Monk's Focus, you have a pool of points that are now called focus points to spend not only on the options that are in this feature, but also a number of the options that appear later in the class. And anyone curious about using any monk material that was published prior to this book, anything that referred to key points in the past should essentially just be read as now referring to focus points. Inside this feature, you still have these sub-options that were there before, but they're really only here in name.
So in the playtests, they renamed key to discipline points, and I guess for the actual player's handbook that they're releasing, they've now renamed it all the way to focus points, which I think I like focus points better than discipline points. It's definitely a little bit easier to say, and I think it has a little bit more of the monk flair in the name focus points, discipline points for some reason. Well, I approve of the name change. Now let's see what they did to the actual abilities.
Flurry of Blows, Patient Defense, and Step of the Wind. I say they're here really only in name because so much has changed functionally, because there have been major enhancements here. First, Patient Defense now lets you take the disengage action as a bonus action without spending any points.
Wow.
Before it required points.
Yeah.
Now, when you get Monk's Focus, you simply gain the ability to take the disengage action as a bonus action.
That's good.
Similarly, the Step of the Wind component of Monk's Focus lets you take the dash action as a bonus action.
Good.
So what these now do that relates to focus points is you can now use focus points to enhance them. So for example, you could spend a focus point with Patient Defense to, yes, take the disengage action as a bonus action, but also the dodge action at the same time. Similarly, Step of the Wind on its own lets you just take the dash action as a bonus action, or you can spend a focus point to be able to take the disengage and dash actions together and have your jump distance doubled for the rest of the turn.
Interesting.
And so now spending your focus points, rather than it unlocking the base ability, is instead about enhancing the base ability. Now, Flurry of Blows is the one of these three options within Monk's Focus that only has a version where you spend focus points on it.
Yeah.
And that is you spend a focus point to make 2 unarmed strikes as a bonus action.
That's because you can
The
already do
reason
that.
why it doesn't have a sort of freebie version like Patient Defense and Step of the Wind.
Oh, you've already gotten that.
Exactly. You got the freebie version back at first level.
Yeah.
Because at first level, you now get the ability to just for free as a bonus action, boom, use your unarmed strike.
Yeah.
So now what Flurry of Blows does is let you enhance that by spending a focus point. I really love this new approach where, again, your focus points in a way are about amping up the volume rather than needing them to do your baseline
You don't need
coolness.
them for the identity of this class. Yeah.
Exactly. Because now the way we've structured it, even if you're out of focus points, you can do all the baseline monk things.
Yeah.
And focus points now become just really cool spice. That's how you crank it up. Focus points are also critical for some of your higher level abilities that can be used only with focus points.
Okay, so T is now focus. You get freebies that you can use for these features. So you can bonus action punch, bonus action disengage, or bonus action dash. Or you can spend a focus point to disengage and dodge. You can spend a focus point to dash and disengage. Or you can spend a focus point to punch twice as a bonus action. So that's a lot of versatility for the monk, and that's only at second level. So you're gonna be oh my goodness, you're gonna be able to go all around the battlefield, dodging attacks, just dishing out attacks. You're gonna have a lot of versatility as a monk, and that's only second level right now. So that's crazy. That's really, 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 really good.
Now, we also took to heart, though, that even though we had lessened how many of your baseline things require focus points, that monks have often felt focus point constrained and too constrained. Because we always want, when there is a limited resource in the game, for there to be a sense of limit. I mean, that's the point, for you to feel like your resource decisions matter, and for there to be that growing sense of danger as you see, you're basically your power tank going down toward empty, whether it's focus points or spell slots or something else. But even with all of that in mind, we felt we could give monks a little more breathing room. And so with that in mind, at level 2, they get a brand new feature after all this other brand new called Uncanny Metabolism. And what this lets the monk do is, when they roll initiative, just decide to regain all their expended focus points. You're getting this feature now at level 2. Now, once you use this feature, you can't do it again until you finish a long rest. But that means once per day, when a battle starts, you can just say, I got all my points back. And that's not all. You also regain a certain number of hit points when you do that. So this uncanny metabolism is you just drawing in your personal resources and saying, I'm ready for another fight. And that's probably going to keep you going for the rest of the adventuring day, or at least a good part of it.
Nice.
Yeah, so you're not only are you going to be able to benefit from your focus points now, you're also going to be able to make sure, for the most part, that you have access to your focus points. So at second level, you're popping off as a monk. Granted, you only have 2 focus points that you're starting out with, but you have so many options available to you, and then if you run out of focus points, you can regain them when you start initiative, and you can get them back when you take short rests as well. So you're able to make sure that you are coming into fights with the majority of your resources available. So you should be able to dish out as a monk in almost every combat. Monks are going to be very good skirmishers now.
Now, when you get to level 3...
We're at level 3.
You now get deflect attacks. And this feature has been redesigned so that it is more versatile than it was before. This used to be the feature that gave you a chance of catching a projectile that was fired at you. And if you managed to zero out the damage completely, you then had the option of trying to hurl it back. And then there were some complexities of the nature of that projectile affected the damage that you were sending back. we wanted it to be easier and more fun for monks to use this ability. And so what we did is we now made it easier, just the whole operation, for the monk to figure out, how they reduce the damage. We no longer care about the physical quality of the thing that's hitting you. All we care about in this rule now is that it deals bludgeoning, piercing, or slashing damage. So whatever it is that's coming in, you can try to deflect it and reduce the damage. And then if you reduce it to 0, and that reduction, by the way, is you roll a d10 and you add your dexterity modifier and your monk level. And if all of that combined zeroes the damage out, you have the option of spending a focus point to then basically redirect the attack's force towards somebody else. And now that other target now has to make a saving throw, and if they fail, you get to do an amount of force damage to them based on your martial arts dice. Remember, your martial arts dice are way better than they used to be.
Yeah.
This feature gets even spicier at higher level, and I'm going to skip ahead because later on...
Eventually it's energy.
Yes. All the way at level 13, you get a feature now called Deflect Energy, where you can now use deflect attacks to deflect any damage type. No matter what it is, whatever energy is coming in, the monk with their preternatural abilities can use their focus to bounce that fire over there, deflect that wave of thunder towards somebody else. It's pretty badass.
Yeah, that's amazing.
That is badass.
In addition to their damage output being improved, we have also looked at ways.
So, deflect attacks still reduces the same amount of damage. Initially, it's only bludgeoning, piercing, or slashing, which it always was base. But now they've upgraded it to where at 13th level you can deflect any damage type, which is great. Granted, you only need to spend the focus point when you reflect the attack. It sounds like it only deals damage equal to your martial arts die. I wonder if you add your dex bonus to that or not, or whether or not it's just one die or maybe 2 of them. He didn't really make it clear exactly how much. He just said it scales with your martial arts die. So that's good, and they just make a dex save, so you're guaranteed. I wonder if they take half if they succeed. I don't recall if he said that or not. But it's good. In fact, I think even if you don't spend the focus point, just having the reaction available to try to negate all that damage to yourself is enough. I think that's going to be good.
To improve their survivability, and that's evident in how their superior defense feature works at level 18. It is also evident in their disciplined survivor ability, which is what they can use to reroll saving throws. It's also especially evident at level 10 in their self-restoration ability, which is a new feature that combines elements that they used to have in other features, where when they get to the end of their turn, if they're charmed, frightened, or poisoned, and again, this is at level 10, they can just say, "No, I'm not." And and before, this had an action economy cost associated with it. No, not anymore. Now just the monk, they get to their end of their turn, and it is literally this good.
Oh.
If they're charmed, frightened, or poisoned, nah.
Okay, so if you're charmed, frightened, or poisoned, it gets to your turn. You deal with the consequences of that on your turn, and then at the end of your turn, you can just and the condition. That's really nice. That is pretty good.
We really wanted monks to have this kind of superheroism in how not only they fight others, but also in how they're able to keep themselves alive. We also have adjusted in a level 10 feature called Heightened Focus what you can do with Flurry of Blows, Patient Defense, and Step of the Wind. So we already enhanced those 3 options back at level 2. Well, when you get to level 10, they all get even better. And we did this because these 3 options are so fundamental to the monk. One being about keeping themselves alive in the form of patient defense. Flurry of Blows is essentially their damage output option for their monk's focus, and Step of the Wind is their mobility option. And again, all 3 get better at level 10. In between, when they got those features back at level 2 and them getting improved at level 10, they also now have their Stunning Strike, which has been adjusted. Now, this is one of the only places in the monk where a feature's power got toned down a slight bit.
Right, yeah.
And we don't feel bad about it, given how much the monk has been buffed.
Yeah.
We've now made it so that Stunning Strike can be used just once per turn.
Okay.
Because there have been cases in the past 10 years where Stunning Strike can get a little out of hand if a monk player uses it over and over and over again.
Yeah.
But I think the sting of that limitation will pass very quickly when people realize that we've now made it that if the target, even if they succeed on their saving throw, they're still affected to a certain extent. So if they fail their saving throw against your Stunning Strike, they're stunned, as you would expect. If they succeed on their saving throw, their speed is halved until the start of your next turn, and the next attack roll made against them has advantage. So when you use Stunning Strike, it's going to have an effect on your target. And really, they're making a saving throw to find out what that effect is going to be. So in the end, Stunning Strike actually got buffed. It's really, we've limited how often you can use it.
That's perfect.
So on top of all of that,
yeah,
monks, like everybody else, get Epic Boon at 19th level.
Okay, so Stunning Strike, you're now limited to only using it once per turn. I assume it is still a con save. However, if the creature fails, the creature fails, they are stunned like normal. If they succeed, their speed is halved until the start of your next turn, and the next attack roll against them is made at advantage. So, while you can only do it once per turn, which you have to spend a focus point to do it, you're still getting rewarded for spending that focus point, even if that saving throw succeeds. Okay, I really like that. I am not bothered that they limited it to once per turn, because I think the benefits to it outweigh the negatives. I feel like the buffs outweigh the apparent debuffs. So, yes, it only lasts until the start of your next turn. I expected them to change it to that, because previously it lasted until the end of your next turn, which didn't make a whole lot of sense because no other feature did that. So they did change that. That's fine. And you're still getting some benefit out of Stunning Strike, even if the creature succeeds on their saving throw. So yeah, no, that is all around better. That's better all around. Even if you can only do it once, you still have the option where if they fail, they're stunned, which is what you want to do if you're which is what you want to happen if you're using it in the first place. But even if they succeed, you still get benefits from that. They're slowed, and the next attack against them has advantage. So you're either helping yourself or your allies when you do this. And you're still putting a status debuff on the creature that you use Stunning Strike against. So yeah, that's just a buff. That's a buff. You know. Hopefully, yeah, that's a buff. I'm really hoping they did something similar for Divine Smite now. Not the same thing, but I'm hoping there's like a status thing for Divine Smite. There's probably not, but I see I see the design aspect around that, and that's just good all around. That's a buff.
And also then have some majorly enhanced subclasses.
One of my absolute favorite ones, just because just from the look of them and the mix of healing and necrotic damage.
Okay, so we're done with the base class. Okay, I really want to look at this article now. Okay, so martial arts. All simple melee weapons are considered monk weapons, as well as martial melee weapons with light property. Yep. Martial arts dice starts at D6 and goes up to D12. That's good. You can use dexterity in place of strength when you grapple or shove. This is great. Patient defense now allows disengage as a bonus action for free, or spend a focus point to disengage and dodge. Step the wind allows dash as a bonus action for free, or spend a focus point, disengage or disengage and dash as a bonus action. And have your jump distance doubled. Uncanny Metabolism once per long rest, regain all focus points when you roll initiative. Deflect attacks, reduce the damage of melee or ranged attacks that deal bludgeoning, piercing, or slashing damage. Melee or ranged attacks, this is infinitely better. Oh my god, that just fits the monk ideal so much. You can deflect attacks that come into you, or deflect any attack that hits you, whether or not it's melee or you're like catching a bolt that's coming towards you. If you reduce the damage to 0, spend a full point to redirect. Melee attacks can be directed at a creature within 5 feet, while ranged attacks against a creature within 60 feet. Okay, so you redirect melee attacks at creatures within 5 feet of you, and then you redirect range attacks against creatures within 60 feet. Target makes dexterity saving throw. It takes damage equal to 2 rolls of your martial arts die plus your dexterity modifier. Okay, yep, so this scales. It does not sound like there's a save for half, which kind of sucks, but this is still that's still dependable damage. I would not do this on the same creature that shot at you with a ranged attack. But I would do it against a different creature if I was sure they had a low dex score. I'm not going to look at subclasses yet. Stunning Strike. You can use a monk weapon or on a strike. Stun condition lasts until the start of your next turn rather than the end, like they said. On a successful save, the target speed is halved, and the next attack against them has advantage. It can only be used once per turn. Yeah, this is a buff. This is a quality of life improvement. Empowered Strike. Choose to deal force damage instead of bludgeoning for unarmed strikes. Now, this makes sense because the new player's handbook is not focusing on magic damage anymore. Instead, force damage is kind of now replacing magic damage, so this is in line with what I've heard for this book. So this is fine because a lot of creatures aren't going to be a majority of monsters aren't resistant or immune to force damage, but a lot of them are resistant or immune to bludgeoning damage. So this is fine. Heightened focus. Improves flurry of blows, patient defense, and step of the wind when you spend a focus point. Flurry of blows becomes 3 attacks. Buffed. Patient defense grants temporary hit points equal to 2 rolls of martial arts die. Awesome. Step of the wind allows you to move a willing creature with you. Okay, so heightened focus is a buff to all of the monk focus abilities. So this is great. This makes all of your base focus abilities increase at this level. You're getting more for your focus points, and you're just getting better at being a monk, essentially. This is good. This is going to help the damage curve. I mean, you are going to get extra attack at this point, but this is guaranteeing 5 attacks at this level, and I assume it's going to be D8 at level 10. I'm guessing it goes to D10 at either 11th or 13th level, probably. What is what levels did their martial arts dice scale? So we know it will go to D8 at 5th now. And we'll go to D10 at 11th. Okay, so this is going to be pretty good at 10th level, but then it's going to be really good at 11th level. Okay, that's going to be, if you hit every attack, that's going to be 5d10 plus 5 times your dex bonus, which is going to be a lot. And you're at 11th level, so that's just making sure you're getting your bang for your buck. And then d12 at 17th level. Yeah, this is great. Self-restoration at 10th level. This is to remove the charm, frighten, or poison condition at the end of your turn. Oh, they didn't talk about this. Going without food or drink doesn't cause exhaustion. That's okay. This is a ribbon feature, but that's, I mean, that's at least something there. And I have heard, just based on the playtest, that they're changing how exhaustion will work, but they have not talked about it in any of these videos yet, so I don't know if they went through with it. But we'll see. Let's see. Deflect energy. Deflect attacks now applies to all damage types. Great. Great. Perfect focus. If you 15th level. If you don't use uncanny metabolism and have fewer than 4 focus points, go back up to 4 focus points when rolling initiative. Okay. So if you don't have uncanny metabolism anymore, which is when I assume this feature will come into focus, start initiative with 0 focus points, and then you just go back up to 4. So you're at by 15th level, you're going to always have focus points in a fight. Superior defense, 17th or 18th level. Spend 3 focus points at the start of your turn. Gain resistance to all damage types except force for 1 minute. That is good. That has replaced empty body, but that's still a lot better. Epic boon, receive 1 of 12 epic boons or another feat. mind and body. The 20th level cap increases your wisdom and dexterity scores by 4 each, up to a maximum of 25. That is a good capstone feature. I really hope that there's more to the ranger one, but they only stated the hunter's mark increase. Monk is so good now. These are just improvements upon improvements. Upon improvements. One minute or until you're incapacitated. Okay, that's good to know. This is the same as I think the one shown for Barbarian. That's good. That is a level 20 capstone feature. Awesome, awesome, awesome. All right. We're good here. Okay, let's talk about the subclasses now.
Damage is the Warrior of Mercy.
And this is a subclass that
Mercy
appeared
Monk
for the first time in Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, where it appeared with the name Way of Mercy. And people will see that all of the monk subclasses now have a naming pattern of Warrior of something.
Yeah.
It's the same subclass as before, just now with Warrior at the front instead of Way of. And in several of our classes, we have unified how that class's subclasses are named. When we get to the sorcerer, we'll talk about how all their subclass names have been unified, and we've done that in a variety of places to not only get the names so that they're all structured the same way, but also to set up how we'll name the subclasses in future books. So the Warrior of Mercy, of the 4 monk subclasses in the book, is the one that has evolved the least, partly because it
most recent in the new designs.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
It's the most recent. And so the main thing that has happened here with this monk, who's all about both help and harm, has been integrating it into the revised class. So otherwise, this is the subclass people know and love from Tasha's Cauldron, but now fully integrated into this completely redesigned monk class. But the subclass features themselves, other than some tweaks in wording to make it so that they fully integrate, it's what you saw the last time you played and enjoyed this subclass.
It's an incredibly fun subclass.
Now, when we get to the other 3 subclasses,
that's all they had to say on Mercy. So, no longer Way of. All of them are now Warrior of. So, Warrior of Mercy hasn't seen many changes. The familiar features such as Hand of Harm and Implements Mercy return, albeit with some minor tweaks. Hand of Healing, for example, is now classed as a magic action. New action class. Through clarity of the rules. The most significant change is that Flurry of Healing and Harm can now be used a number of times for longer as equal to your Wisdom modifier. I think before, shouldn't have backed out of that, but I did. Before it was proficiency bonus uses. Sounds about right. Wait. One key. Oh no, wait. Did they? Okay, I need clarification on that. Flurry of Healing Hands. Oh, wait. Flurry of Healing Hands can now be used number of times equal to the modifier. Okay, so they just limited the number of times you can do that. Okay. That's okay, because I'm sure that this feature was powerful in the old monk. It would definitely be even more powerful now, so I see why they put a limit on this. Flurry of Healing and Harm. Some significant change, okay. So basically all of this is the same. Except for this, which now has a limit to the number of times you can do it. Make an unarmed strike with flurry of blows. You can place each of them with the use of healing hands. Unarmed strike, healing strike without spending the key point. Okay. I think that's okay.
We have the Warrior of Shadow. We have
I think that's okay because what they've probably done is that, well, I can't say that they probably done. They might have added in where you can spend key points after you go out of free uses. I imagine what they've done is they've limited the amount of free uses, and then you can spend these focus points to do them. It's normal. So yeah, I think that's fine. Actually, no. So I think that makes more sense because you can do either of these by spending focus points. And all this doing, all that addition is doing is limiting the amount of times you can do the flurry version with, and all this does is negate you using focus points. Okay, I think that's fine.
the Warrior of the Elements and the Warrior of the Open Hand.
Okay, which one are we talking
So
about?
the Warrior of the Elements completely replaces the Way of the Four Elements. The Way of the Four Elements, sadly, in terms of satisfaction, was often the lowest rated subclass in the 2014 Player's Handbook.
It was bad.
Yeah.
And so looking at it, we realized the best path forward is to replace it.
Yeah.
And the Warrior of the Elements is a subclass that people got to see a draft of in the Unearthed Arcana process, and now the final version is here in the book. This is a monk who is all about channeling the elemental forces of the multiverse and using those elemental powers as part of their martial arts. And so you're going to see a number of really fun things here related to that. First off, these monks are able to increase the reach of all of their unarmed strikes as they use wind and water and fire and earth to extend their reach. So you can imagine, cool tendrils of water going out to make it so that this monk can punch someone like 10 feet over there.
Yeah.
And it's not Mr. Fantasticing or one-piecing over there with a stretchy punch. No, it's the elements themselves reaching out to extend their reach. We also give them, and you alluded to this, we give them a new cantrip, the Elementalism cantrip, that allows them to shape the elements around them, shape water, fire, earth, etc., so that they can feel like they have some of this elemental magic even when they're outside combat. And when you get this subclass, because by the way, this is all right when you first get the subclass, you gain these benefits. You gain elementalism, you gain your extended reach, and you also are able to do your elemental strikes. And so whenever you hit somebody now with that extended reach that the elements are giving you, and you are dealing damage to them, You can first off change that damage type to one of a list of damage types that we provide, all elementally themed. But then you can also force the target to make a saving throw, and if they fail, you can move them around the battlefield as either wind is blowing them, or water is causing them to flow away, or fire is causing them to stumble back. Whichever element it is that you're deploying,
what type of saving throw did you say?
When you first get the subclass, you gain these benefits. You gain elementalism, you gain your extended reach, and you also are able to do your elemental strikes. And so whenever you hit somebody now with that extended reach that the elements are giving you, and you are dealing damage to them, you can first off change that damage type to one of a list of damage types that we provide, all elementally themed. But then you can also force the target to make a saving throw, and if they fail, you can move them around the battlefield as either wind is blowing them, or water is causing them to flow away, or fire is causing them to stumble back. Whichever element it is that you're deploying, you suddenly,
I'm guessing,
with that
either
extended
con
reach,
or
get to
strength.
be like, no, you're here, you're now over there. So a lot of tactical fun
Strength would be
is
better.
waiting for you right here at level 3 when you first get this subclass. Then when you get up to level 6, you gain the ability to essentially extend your elemental power to a greater distance. Now you'll be able to take a magic action, expend some focus points, and then cause an explosion of elemental power up to 120 feet away from you. And this is a 20-foot radius sphere explosion.
Whoa.
Where you now deal damage, and it is based on your martial arts dice. And so this is something that will scale with you as your martial arts die gets better. So even better than we did with the Way of the Four Elements, we're giving you the ability to easily just bring some spectacular elemental effects to the battlefield. And rather than expecting you to choose a particular element that you use all the time, the theme of the Way of the Elements, and it's partly why we changed the name of the subclass, rather the Warrior of the Elements, is you are tapping into the whole elemental chaos. You're not necessarily tied to any particular elemental plane. Instead, you're tapping into the chaotic mixture of all of them, which is one of the reasons why we made it so that you can choose every time you use these abilities to pick a different one of the damage types that are available here. It's also why even in the art for this subclass, you'll see in the monk's image that she is channeling multiple different elements all at the same time, rather than just being a monk of fire or earth or wind or what have you. We also have made it so that while you have those benefits going of that extended reach and you're using your elemental strikes, which I should have mentioned earlier, you have to actually activate. They're not on all the time.
Right.
You have to spend focus points to turn them on. And so when you're just going about your day, you don't have water extending from your hand.
Distracting.
But yeah, if you use focus points to turn on these powers, well, that power that you've turned on just gets better and better as you go up in level. So once you reach level 11, whenever you've activated your elemental attunement, that's the name of the feature that gives you that extended reach and those elemental strikes, now you also have a fly speed and a swim speed because you are carried aloft by the winds, you are pushed along by the waters. So now you have
and that'll benefit from your
supreme mobility
speed
on top of the outstanding mobility that monks already have. Then at level 17, you get a feature called Elemental Epitome. And this also improves your elemental attunement ability. You now get an elemental damage resistance that you get to choose, and you get to choose it at the start of every one of your turns. So,
oh, wow.
So every time your turn starts, you just get to decide if that turn, or rather until the start of your next turn, you have resistance to acid, cold, fire, lightning, or thunder. And in certain battles, that can be really useful to be able to just keep switching those.
Yeah.
Also, we've made it so that when you use your Step of the Wind while your elemental attunement is going, your speed increases. So now you're even faster. And as you move around the battlefield, you can cause damage to foes that you're moving by because of all this elemental power that is swirling around you. In many ways, you can almost imagine the Warrior of the Elements as the cousin of the Circle of the Sea Druid,
right?
Because both of them are going to have these sort of destructive auras around them, but they use them in very different ways, although they can, the two of them, fly and swim together.
Yeah.
That's why I kind of think of them as buddies. You also, in this capstone ability, have the option to just once per turn deal some extra damage because of all of this elemental power that is swirling around you. And so all of these features combined make the Warrior of the Elements this elemental powerhouse who's going to be moving around quickly on the battlefield, who has not only an extended reach, but also a built-in magical ranged ability to blow up an area. I think going to be super exciting.
So now let's talk about the Warrior of Shadow.
Okay, so Warrior of the Four Elements, we're not even going to look at this. Or Warrior of the Elements. Warrior of the Elements set the most number of changes and received a lot of new exciting features. Elemental Attunement now gives you a 10-foot reach of your unarmed strikes. And deals your choice of acid, cold, fire, lightning, or thunder damage. You can also push or pull a target 10 feet on a failed save. Okay. On top of that, you learn the new Elementalism cantrip. As you level up, you get the ability to create AoE elemental bursts. One way to navigate the battlefield and damage resistance to aid survivability. Anything different here? The way the four elements are entirely much more flexible and efficient with its use of focus points, allowing you to create torrents of elemental damage. Now, this sounds very much like sound like they changed much from the playtest. Yeah, it's this. Pretty sure. Sounds like they kept a lot about this. Elemental attunement, you get the Elementalism cantrip. At the start of your turn, you can spend a discipline point and beat yourself with energy for 10 minutes until you have the incapacity condition. You get the following benefits for the duration. In the elemental strikes. Yeah, in the playtest, this was a strength saving throw, so it's probably the same. Push or pull target 10 feet. The reach is extended. Extends your unarmed strikes by 10 feet. Elemental Burst was 3 rolls you mark first die in the playtest. And 11th level, Strike the Elements. Talk about there. Elemental Epitome. Change damages turns. And then Destructive Stride, he was talking about, deals damage when you move within 5 feet of cages. So yeah, it sounds like they ported everything from this. Yeah, the sounds almost exactly. The sounds pretty much exactly the same. The only thing I wonder is if they gave one free use of this feature for long rest, and then you can spend 2 discipline points to do it again, or if they just kept it to 2 discipline points. Yeah, either way, this is pretty good. Let's say before or after you take this action, you can make one arm practice. They probably remove that because it doesn't matter what action you take. Make the bonus action arm strike. Yeah, this is probably exactly the same as this. So, hear what they have to say about Warrior of the Shadow, and then take a look.
I've played this subclass quite a bit. This has had significant quality of life improvements in it. Makes you even more dangerous. If you wanted that Shadowfell, the threat in the darkness feeling, this is the subclass for you.
Yeah, we wanted to make it so that the Warrior of Shadow was even more suffused by shadow than it was before. And one of the ways that we did that is we preserve the ability for this subclass to cast the darkness spell, but now we've made it so that you can see in that darkness. Anyone who has used that spell, you know that part of its power is very few creatures in the game can see through that darkness.
Yeah.
And so being able to create that darkness and see in it, and then later use your own darkness that you've created to fuel your shadow step, the teleportation that these monks get that relies on you being in dim light or darkness. You can start creating synergies with yourself that are just super fun.
Yeah. The advantages you get by being able to see someone in the darkness and them not being able to see you are extreme.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, you now are in many ways the scary companion to the assassin rogue.
Yeah.
It just as the warrior of the elements is the buddy of the Circle of the Sea druid, the warrior of shadow and the monk is definitely the buddy of the assassin. And
right.
I could see these two being a really scary pair hunting down the bad guys. We have taken that shadow step ability, which is so core to the identity of the warrior of shadow, preserved it, but then improved it at level 11 with improved shadow step. We've now made it so that when you use your shadow step, you now have the option of expending a focus point to make it so that you are not required to start or end the teleportation in dim light or darkness.
Yeah.
And because we found that as cool as shadow step has always been, one of the most difficult aspects of it were being in an adventuring context where there is no dim light or darkness.
Yeah.
And now we've sort of double solved for this here by giving you this darkness you can create and see in,
yeah.
so you can use that.
Because if you are physically in the light, that's still an issue.
Yes. And we wanted to make sure you could always use your core ability as that's a part of this subclass. But there's more. In improved shadow step, we've also made it so that if you spend that focus point, you not only don't have to start or end in dim light or darkness, but as the part of the same bonus action when you teleport, hey, you also get to make an unarmed strike immediately after you teleport. So you can just suddenly appear next to somebody and kabam.
Yeah.
Finally, at level 17, we have a much improved Cloak of Shadows ability. And this not only lets you turn invisible, but it also makes you partially incorporeal.
Yes.
So that now you can pass through occupied spaces as if they were difficult terrain. And you can use your flurry of blows, which is normally costs a focus point to make 2 unarmed strikes as a bonus action. You can now use that while you're in this limited time Cloak of Shadows form, you can use that flurry of blows without spending any focus points. Now, instead, you are spending focus points to activate your Cloak of Shadows, but once you've activated it, you can just be this shadowy force moving around and punching or kicking the heck out of things.
I mean, obviously, this has nice synergy with the Gloomstalker Ranger as well as the Assassin, but I would either like to see these two together or fighting each other. The Fey Patron Warlock teleporting all over the battlefield and the Shadow Monk doing the same thing, and they're just trying to get at each other. It's like a constant chess match.
It's not a PvP game.
But it is in my head. Not when I play.
It's a co-op
but
game.
It's fun. Listen, sometimes the best adventures start off with everyone not getting along. Guardians of the Galaxy.
But anyone who is like you, what I would encourage is absolutely.
What's going to come next?
Oh, no. It's a DMing tip.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Todd's so funny.
Take inspiration from classes and subclasses for the monsters that you create.
Yeah.
Because, there are some really cool abilities here that you absolutely could riff on in a monster or NPC. And then you can absolutely create some of those awesome moments that you're thinking of.
Yeah. And that brings us to the final warrior.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, I did like there at the end that he talked about using the information from this book to make your own monsters. So I know that they're going to have a section of that in the new DMG, and I really want to know how they've expanded that section and homebrewing monsters. But let's look at Warrior of the Shadow. So Shadow Arts now offer great flexibility with how you manipulate and use shadows, although Pass Without Trace and Silence have been removed. New feature Cloak of Shadows replaces Opportunist and grants a much more persistent invisibility effect. So, Way of Shadow really shines in 2024, pun intended. Shadow Arts has been reworked, allowing you to cast Darkness and Minor Illusion, and you can move the field of darkness you create. The feature also gives you dark vision or upgrades yours if you have it. As you level up, your level 11 improved Shadow Step allows you to spend a focus point to ignore the dim light or darkness of Shadow Step, and make an unarmed strike immediately after you teleport as part of the same bonus action. Finally, Cloak of Shadow is a new level 17 feature that allows you to wreathe yourself in shadows. This effect lasts for 1 minute or until you're incapacitated, or you end your turn in bright light. While it's active, you have the invisible condition, which persists even if you attack or cast a spell. You can move through occupied spaces as if they were difficult terrain, and you can use Flurry of Blows without needing to spend any focus points. This sounds pretty close to the playtest version. As you can see here, Shadow Arts, you get Cast Darkness as 1 discipline point. You can also move it at the start of each of your turns. You gain Dark Vision 60 feet. If you already have Dark Vision, it increases your Dark Vision by 60 feet. And you know the Minor Illusion cantrip. And this part lets you know you can see in the spell's darkness when you cast it. Shadow Step used to be 11th level, I believe, and they moved it down to 6th level. The Shadow Step, you can teleport 60 feet as a bonus action. As long as you are in dim light or darkness, and the point that you teleport to is also in dim light or darkness, then have advantage on the next melee attack you make before the end of the turn. 11th level is an improved version of this. You can spend a discipline point to teleport even if you're not in dim light or darkness, and then as part of the bonus action you teleport, you can also make an unarmed strike immediately after you teleport. And then 17th level, you can spend 3 discipline points, gain Cloak of Shadows for 1 minute, or until incapacitated, or until you end your turn in bright light. Makes sense. During that time, you have the invisible condition, You can move through objects and creatures because they're partially corporeal, and then you can use flurry blows without spending any discipline points, which is really nice because you just spent 3 to activate this feature. So, Warrior of Shadow sounds amazing. Sounds great. So many options. We have one final subclass to look at. This is the Warrior of the Open Hand. And let's see what they've done.
Yes, the Warrior of the Open Hand. The Warrior of the Open Hand we can kind of think of as the most monkish.
I just realized in this art.
Brings us to the final warrior.
Yes, the Warrior of the Open Hand.
The monk is
the Warrior of the
fighting werewolves, which is kind of neat. They're standing off against werewolves.
Open Hand we can kind of think of as the most monkish of the monks.
Yeah.
Really leans into the core kit of the class, the unarmed strikes, the high mobility. And what we wanted to do here is just make sure it was delivering those goods in as fun a way as possible. We took, for instance, wholeness of body at level 6. And before, this was a way for this monk to heal themselves. It took a whole action. Now it's a bonus action. So we want you to be able to just weave this into what the other things you're doing on your turn. And you can also now use this multiple times per day. And this is a part of our effort to enhance monk survivability. We also have a brand new feature in the Warrior of the Open Hand called Fleet Step. And what this feature does is whenever you take a bonus action to do anything other than Step of the Wind, you can also use Step of the Wind immediately after that bonus action. So I was just telling you about, these monks can now heal themselves as a bonus action. Well, the very next feature combos with that, and it means even if you use your bonus action to heal yourself, you can also Step of the Wind.
Yeah.
And that's because we wanted, while some of the other monk subclasses are, again, getting things like flight or teleportation, we wanted these to be the monks who are just zipping around the battlefield.
Yeah.
And even when they're like patching themselves up, it's like, oh my gosh, how fast is she running?
Yeah.
And then finally, we revised Quivering Palm. This was the I touch you, and then at some point you may or may die. We've now made it so that it now deals a truckload of damage on a failed save and a smaller truckload of damage on a successful one. It does no longer just instantly zero a creature out. This was one of the only other places in the monk where we needed to adjust the power down a little bit, because Quivering Palm before essentially had kind of the theoretical possibility to deal infinite damage, because it could reduce any creature, no matter how high their hit point pool was, down to 0.
Yeah.
And this was just not scaling well, particularly with some of the higher level encounters that we want high level characters to be able to have, and have those encounters still be a challenge.
Yeah.
So what we did, even though we took away the deal infinite damage portion of Quivering Palm, we did make sure that the challenge
of those high level encounters. As I said,
a truckload.
Okay. Perfect.
So all of these things together amount to a class that has been reimagined, redeveloped.
Yes.
We've play tested the heck out of it, and it is a ton of fun.
When you pre-order the digital...
Okay, so that was the last bit of there. So Warrior of the Open Hand. Open Hand technique blocks opportunity attacks rather than all the reactions. Okay, understandable. Because I know, based on the playtest, they also changed Shocking Grasp to take away opportunity attacks instead of all reactions now. So that's fine. Wholeness of Body is now a bonus action. Quivering Palm no longer reduces target to 0 hit points. For the more information section here, Open hand techniques remains largely unchanged with the exception of one of its options only blocking opportunity attacks rather than all reactions. Wholeness of body has been moved to a bonus action, now heals the number of hit points equal to a roll of your martial arts die plus your wisdom modifier rather than 3 times their monk level. That's fine. It is a bonus action though. We're definitely gonna look here. So this is the one. Addle. Target must succeed on a Constitution saving throw, or it can't take reactions until the end of your next turn. This has been changed to opportunity attacks. Push must succeed on a strength save or be pushed up 50 feet away. Topple must succeed on dexterity saving throw of a prone condition. Wholeness of body, bonus action, 1 discipline point. Regain number of hit points equal to your martial arts die, plus the rest of modifier. And I wonder if they took away the number of times you can use it. Oh, however, you can now use it a number of times with your wisdom modifier rather than just once. Okay, so overall, this is a buff. It is less hit points per turn. However, since it scales with your monk die and your wisdom modifier, it does end up being more healing overall. So this is an acceptable change. Also, with Fleet of Step at 11th level, you're still ensuring that even if you spend your bonus action to heal on your turn, you're still being able to use Step of the Wind on the same bonus action. Yeah. Part of any bonus action that wasn't already one Step of the Wind. Okay, so it's worded a little differently here in the playtest, but this is how it's intended to be used. So you can Step of the Wind, even if you use your bonus action to do any other type of bonus action feature. Quivering Palm has been rebalanced to now cost 4 key points and does 10 d12 of force damage on a failed save, and half as much on a successful save. The playtest included your monk level in the damage. I wonder if they've taken that part out. But other than that, it looks like they've also increased the point cost to 4. That must have been overperforming. There. I guess it's okay. You're going to have 17 focus points. And you can regain all of them at the start of an encounter. And you regain all of them on a short rest. So I think overall, Monk is in a much, much, much better position than it was previously. Honestly, it is pretty much buffed straight across the board. They have nerfed certain features, but I feel like the reason that nerfs were put in place is because they buffed almost every other feature and replaced all the features that were bad with significantly more powerful features. So overall, Monk may be the best upgrade that 2044 Player's Handbook has received so far. This monk is going to see a lot of play. It is definitely an improvement over the 2014 monk. No one is going to be playing the 2014 monk anymore. You're only going to see 2024 monks. And I have no words. This is everything that people could have wanted for the monk. And I really don't see any detriments to the changes that they've made, even to the abilities that they nerfed. I feel like it's just for balance issues or balance reasons. And I mean, they've already improved so much about it. I'm pretty much at a loss for words. Monk, maybe the best class now. They went from worst class to best class. So yeah, this video has gone on long enough. I'm gonna stop gushing about the monk. But that is gonna be it for this video. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe if you want more content from me on the 2024 Player's Handbook, the Dungeon Master's Guide, and the Monster Manual when they come out. I will be reviewing these regardless, but it will show me your guys' support for this content. And I'm looking forward to bringing new information about these books to you guys. Until then, have a great rest of your day, and I will catch you all later. See ya.